I had to talk about a story that's very, very important. And albeit indirectly, it involves Caitlin Clark, the Department of Justice, and quite possibly the President of the United States himself.
A civil rights investigation into a basketball league? Yeah, you heard that right. What started as missed foul calls and a few hard screens might be turning into one of the biggest legal controversies in WNBA history. Because Caitlin Clark's battles on the court, they might not just be physical, they might be federal. And now, it's not just fans crying foul. It's Wall Street Journal headlines. It's U.S. senators demanding answers. It's Stephen A. Smith calling out the league. And it might even be the President of the United States who jumps in. But how did we get here? And who's really behind this growing storm? Let's break it down. From the moment Caitlin Clark stepped foot in the WNBA, it wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was war. Game after game, hit after hit, Clark has taken more elbows, body checks, and straight-up cheap shots than any rookie in recent memory. And the craziest part? Most of it goes uncalled. We all remember the Kennedy Carter incident, a blatant shoulder check after the whistle that dropped Caitlin to the floor. No warning, no ejection, no foul. Just a cold reminder that in this league, Caitlin Clark was going to have to earn her stripes the hard way. But that was just one of many. From Dejanay Carrington's physical clamps to Kennedy Carter's smirks after blindsiding her to entire defensive game plans built not around stopping her shot, but punishing her body. The message was loud and clear. You're not one of us, and we're going to make sure you feel it. And fans? Oh, they saw it. Every bump, every no call, every moment where the refs just swallowed the whistle. It lit up TikTok and YouTube like wildfire. Clips of Clark getting decked were going viral not because they were rare, but because they were becoming routine. Even analysts started sounding off. This is getting ridiculous. Where's the protection? She's the face of the league, and she's being treated like a punching bag. And yet, the silence from the league office was deafening. No statements, no suspensions, no accountability. But that wasn't the whole story. Because while the league stayed quiet, someone else was watching and taking notes. When fans scream on social media, the league shrugs. When analysts raise concerns, the league dodges. But when the Wall Street Journal steps in, now it's national. Now it's real. In a stunning editorial titled The WNBA and Caitlin Clark's Civil Rights, the Wall Street Journal didn't just criticize the league, they accused it. And not of bad PR or inconsistent officiating. They raised the alarm that Caitlin Clark's civil rights may be getting violated. Open quote, instead of protecting its star, the league treats her like a PR headache. Close quote. That sentence alone flipped the entire narrative. Because if Clark isn't just being targeted physically, but systematically ignored by her own league as it happens, then this isn't just bad leadership. It might be a legal liability. The article didn't hold back. It broke down Caitlin's numbers and made one thing painfully obvious. Open quote. Caitlin Clark has done for the WNBA what Michael Jordan did for the NBA. Close quote. Let that sink in. Since she entered the league, merchandise sales up 601%, Indiana Fever viewership up 170%, League Pass 366% spike, app engagement over 600% increase, endorsements over $11 million and counting. She's not just a player. She's the engine driving the entire league forward. And yet, the league's silence while she gets physically beaten down game after game? The Wall Street Journal painted it as more than neglect. They framed it as a civil rights red flag. It was bold, it was direct, and it got people's attention fast. But while most saw it as a wake-up call, one U.S. senator saw it as a smoking gun. You know it's serious when Capitol Hill starts asking questions about basketball fouls. Just days after the Wall Street Journal dropped the civil rights bombshell, Indiana Senator Jim Banks stepped into the ring, and he came swinging. In an official letter addressed to the WNBA commissioner, Senator Banks didn't mince words. He wasn't asking for a review. He was demanding answers. Open quote. Over a year later, with more cheap shots and no action, Congress must act. Close quote. He directly referenced the now infamous Kennedy Carter hit, the one that rocked Caitlin Clark after the whistle while the refs stood there and blinked. But he didn't treat it like an isolated incident. Banks pointed to it as just one example in a long list of unchecked aggression that has followed Caitlin since her debut. And he wasn't just writing as a politician. He's from Indiana, Clark's home court, and he made it personal. This wasn't just about sports anymore. This was about justice, protection, and whether a national sports league can get away with ignoring the abuse of its biggest star. And suddenly, the whispers about Caitlin Clark's treatment, they were echoing through the halls of Congress. Because once a U.S. senator gets involved, the league can't just brush it off as part of the game anymore. And the crazy part? He wasn't alone. Because while Banks brought the paperwork, Stephen A. Smith brought the fire. Now here's where things get murky and a little bit spicy. While the headlines scream civil rights and politicians shout justice, rumors are quietly swirling behind the scenes. And at the center of those whispers, Caitlin Clark's agent. Sources suggest that this civil rights push didn't just happen. It might have been orchestrated. Allegedly, members of Clark's inner circle, particularly her representation, have been working behind the scenes to shine a national spotlight on the league's failure to protect her. Some believe her agent is taking cues from the playbook of big-time sports icons, leveraging public pressure, media narratives, and political allies, not just for headlines, but for long-term change. Because let's be real, Clark isn't just a rookie. She's a brand. And when your brand is getting tackled like a linebacker every week, that's not just bad PR. It's bad business. Rumors claim the legal push may be part of a broader campaign to force the WNBA's hand. More protection, more fouls called, more star treatment. In short, get the league to treat Caitlin Clark not like a punching bag, but like the $28 million face of women's basketball that she is. And while this theory hasn't been confirmed, one thing is clear. The media machine is moving fast. The stakes are getting higher. And someone, maybe someone in a very expensive suit, is pulling strings behind the curtain. Next up, let's talk about how the WNBA finally responded and why their answer might have just made everything worse. When Sophie Cunningham stepped up to a mic this week, she didn't hold back. In a league where most players either stay quiet or toe the company line, Sophie did the unthinkable. She publicly said what fans have been screaming for weeks. Open quote, Caitlin Clark is not being protected. Close quote. That one sentence hit like a bomb. Because when a fellow WNBA player, not a coach, not a fan, not an ESPN analyst, but an active player goes on record and calls out the league's failure to protect its biggest star, that's not drama. That's a damn alarm bell. And now, the questions are impossible to ignore. Is the league deliberately turning a blind eye? Are they letting Clark take the hits to earn her stripes? Or worse, is this some twisted attempt to humble her rise? Sophie didn't name names. She didn't point fingers. But she didn't have to. Because the silence from the league office is speaking loud enough already. Just when you thought the Caitlin Clark drama was confined to hardwood and hashtags, Stephen A. Smith threw gasoline on the fire with a bold prediction. Open quote, Donald Trump is going to weaponize this. Close quote. And honestly, he might not be wrong. Because this isn't just about basketball anymore. It's not just about hard fouls or missed calls or locker room beef. It's about visibility, identity, politics. You've got a young white Midwestern phenom lighting up the league, getting clobbered on court, and somehow still being treated like a villain by parts of the media and even some of her peers. That's not just sports controversy. That's political fuel. Stephen A's point was crystal clear. If the league, the media, and certain fan bases keep turning Caitlin Clark into a punching bag, it opens the door for political opportunists to say, open quote, look at what they're doing to her. Look at how unfair this is. They don't protect her because she doesn't fit the narrative, close quote. And who's the king of spinning that kind of grievance? Donald J. Trump. He doesn't need to care about the WNBA. He doesn't need to know who Angel Reese or Aja Wilson is. All he needs is a symbol. And Caitlin Clark, whether she likes it or not, is becoming that symbol, a lightning rod for culture wars, race debates, and political theater. This isn't just a basketball problem anymore. It's a national conversation. And the league better decide fast which side of that line it wants to stand on before someone else draws it for them. So, what if this actually goes to court? Let's be real. This isn't just about fouls or physical play anymore. This is about civil rights, national pressure, and the integrity of a professional league caught in the crosshairs. If Caitlin Clark, through her team or legal channels, argues that she's been targeted, ignored, and left vulnerable based on race, gender dynamics, or even retaliation for her popularity, then the legal system won't just ask why it happened. They'll ask who allowed it. Imagine a civil rights lawsuit that doesn't just name players, but calls out the league itself, federal investigations, congressional hearings, public backlash, sponsor pullouts. And if a judge decides that, yes, her civil rights were violated, that she was systematically denied protection, that the WNBA failed in its duty to uphold equal standards, then Caitlin Clark might not just be the most famous player in the league. She might just own it. This story started with a few hard fouls, some petty on-court antics, a few viral clips. But where it's headed, it's no longer just sports. We came here talking about basketball, but this is history in the making.